It was a quiet summer night in the desert town of Ely, Nevada. The sky was clear, filled with stars, and the air was warm but still. Darren Miles, a 32-year-old aerospace engineer, was standing in his backyard, adjusting the telescope he had built himself. He enjoyed studying the stars. It helped him feel calm. Life on Earth was busy, noisy, and often confusing. But the sky above, it was silent, endless, and peaceful. Darren didn't believe in aliens. Not seriously. He had read stories, watched movies, and even laughed at some conspiracy theories on the internet, but deep down, he always thought those stories were made up. He believed in science, logic, and things that could be measured. That night, though, something happened that would change everything he thought was real. Around midnight, as he looked through his telescope, Darren noticed a strange shimmer in the sky. It wasn't a star, a plane, or a satellite. It moved differently, slow. At first, then fast, then stopping in midair. The shimmering light blinked, then shot downward like a falling star. There was no sound, but Darren felt something. A low vibration in the ground, almost like a soft hum inside his bones. Curious, he stepped away from the telescope and walked toward the back of his house. As he turned toward the patio door, he froze. Someone was standing just outside the glass. At first, he thought it was a woman. Tall, slim, with long arms and silver-colored skin that shimmered slightly in the moonlight. Her eyes glowed faintly, and strange patterns covered her arms. Like tattoos, but glowing. She wasn't wearing anything strange, just a long, dark robe that moved like smoke around her legs. But her face, her expression, it wasn't threatening. It was desperate. She looked tired, confused, and scared. Darren stood still. His mind raced. Who was this? Was it a trick? A dream? She placed her hand gently on the glass, palm open. Her fingers were long, with smooth joints and tiny lights moving under her skin. Then, softly, she spoke. Her voice was clear, but not from Earth. It had a musical tone, like several notes blending into one. "Let me in," she said. "You'll never want a human woman again." Darren's mouth dropped open. The words didn't fully make sense to him. Was this some kind of joke? But no one else was around. No cameras, no lights. And her eyes were full of sadness, not trickery. He didn't move for several seconds. She didn't press or pound the glass. She waited quietly, her hand still on the window. Her breath fogged a small circle on the glass, showing she was real, alive. He slowly reached for the door handle. His hand shook, not from fear, but from shock. Was this really happening? He unlocked the door but didn't open it yet. Instead, he spoke, trying to keep his voice calm. "Who are you? What do you want?" She tilted her head slightly. "My name is Ariel," she said. "I came here to study. But now, I need help." Darren looked around. No one else was near. The houses on his street were dark. No dogs barked, no cars passed. It felt like time had stopped. "Are you human?" he asked. She smiled gently. "No, not like you. But I'm not here to hurt you." Darren believed her, though he didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she spoke. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. Or maybe some part of him, deep down, had always known something like, this could happen. He took a deep breath and opened the door slowly. She stepped in without a sound. Her movements were smooth and careful, like someone used to lower gravity. Once inside, she looked around with wonder. Her eyes scanned the room, noting every detail, the lights, the shelves, the rug beneath her feet. She touched the edge of the table with her fingers, like she was trying to feel its story. Darren watched her closely. She didn't seem dangerous. Just lost. "Why did you say that?" he asked. That I'll never want a human woman again? Auriel turned toward him. Because your kind is always looking for connection. But you suffer too much. You give your hearts, then take them back. You love, then break apart. I have seen it, felt it. Darren blinked. You study humans? Nodded. I'm what your people would call a scientist. I study bonds, feelings, closeness. But I got separated from my ship. I had to find someone. I found you. Darren wasn't sure what to say. Everything felt too big, too strange. But at the same time, something about her felt real. Not fake, not harmful. He motioned for her to sit down. She did, folding her legs beneath her like a dancer. Her eyes looked at him not with threat, but with deep curiosity. Are you hungry? He asked, not knowing what else to say. She tilted her head again. I do not need your food, but I'd like to stay. He nodded slowly. Just for tonight, he said. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Auriel smiled again, just a little. Thank you, Darren Miles. He didn't remember telling her his full name, and as he sat across from her in his quiet living room, he realized something strange. He wasn't afraid anymore. Somewhere in the sky, something had fallen. But in his house, something had begun. Darren didn't sleep that night. How could he? An alien woman was sitting on his couch, watching his television like it was a magic box. She was calm, quiet, and strangely curious about everything around her. The remote, the ceiling fan, even, the sound of the refrigerator humming, it all fascinated her. Auriel sat with perfect posture, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. Her large eyes followed every movement Darren made, but she didn't speak unless he asked her something. He wasn't sure if she was shy or just processing everything. He finally broke the silence. So you said you were a scientist? From up there? He pointed to the stars through the window. She turned her head slightly, then nodded. Yes, I was assigned to observe your kind, to understand why humans are so emotional. Darren raised his eyebrows. Emotional? That's why you're here? She leaned forward a little, as if trying to explain it simply. Your people feel everything so deeply. Love, sadness, fear, hope. Where I come from, we do not express like you. We understand data, patterns, but not what you call feelings. He sat down across from her, rubbing the back of his neck. So you're studying human love? Yes. Connection. Attraction. Why you choose one person over another. Why you stay. Why you leave. And what it does to your body. And mind. Darren gave a short laugh. Good luck with that. We barely understand it ourselves. Auriel's eyes glowed slightly. That is why we study you. But now, I am off course. My ship lost track of me when I entered this part of your world. The signal is broken. Until I find a way to reconnect, I am alone. Her voice grew softer on the last word, and for the first time, Darren saw something in her eyes that wasn't scientific curiosity. It was sadness. Real, quiet, lonely sadness. He stood up and walked to the kitchen. You said you don't need food, right? She nodded. Correct. Well, he said, grabbing a glass of water, I do. As he sipped, she looked around again. Your home is small, but warm. It feels gentle? Darren leaned on the counter. It's nothing special. Just me here. I live alone. She looked at him. You lost someone? He hesitated. Yeah, a few months ago. A long relationship. Ended badly. I haven't really talked to anyone since. Auriel tilted her head, curious. Was the bond broken? You could say that, he said with a sigh. We wanted different things. I think I wanted something real. She wanted something else. The room fell silent again. Then she stood up and slowly walked toward him, stopping a few feet away. Her presence wasn't scary. It was calm, like she brought silence with her. "May I try something?" she asked. He looked unsure. "Depends. What is it?" "I want to understand what you feel. Not just hear it. Not just watch it. I want to feel it inside, with your permission." He hesitated, but finally nodded. Ariel raised her hand and gently placed it against his chest, over his heart. Her palm was warm and smooth. Not cold, not mechanical. Alive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Darren felt something strange, like a soft wave passing through him. Memories came up. His last argument with his ex, the long nights of silence, the ache of being misunderstood. All of it moved through him like wind through trees, not painful but heavy. She closed her eyes. "You carry wounds. They hum inside you." Darren looked away. "Everyone has wounds." "Yes, but not all hide them so well." Her voice was quiet now, almost like she was whispering not to scare the moment away. She lowered her hand. "You feel too much. That's why you try not to feel at all." He didn't reply. He didn't know what to say. Oriel stepped back and looked up at the ceiling light. "In my world, we do not comfort. We do not hug. We do not cry. But I have watched humans. I have seen kindness in your worst moments. Even when your hearts are broken, you still reach out." Darren gave a small smile. "You've been watching us for a while, huh?" "Yes. From a distance. Through records, observations. But never like this. Never inside your world." There was a pause. Then she asked, "Why do your people lie when they are in pain?" He blinked. "Because sometimes it's easier than explaining. Or facing it." She nodded slowly, thinking about it deeply. "Interesting. Pain shapes behavior." He laughed quietly. "You sound like a therapist." "I do not know that word. It means someone who listens. Someone who helps you understand yourself." Ariel smiled gently. "Then maybe I am learning your ways." Later, they sat outside in the backyard. The stars were still bright above them, and Darren brought out a blanket and 2 chairs. She stared at the sky, pointing out clusters he had never seen. "My planet is near that red cluster," she said, her voice soft. "You cannot see it clearly from here, too far. But it's there." He looked at her. "Do you miss it?" "I do not know," she replied. "Before tonight, I did not think missing was real. But now, I feel something. Strange, heavy, but warm." They sat together in silence for a while, watching the sky. Then she turned to him and said something he wasn't ready for. "Let me in. Not just your home. Let me in your heart. I must learn why your species aches this way." He looked into her eyes. There was no trick in them, no plan. Just honest, strange, open wonder. And in that moment, Darren realized he didn't feel alone anymore. The next morning, Darren woke up on the couch with a blanket over him. He didn't remember covering himself, and for a moment he wondered if last night had just been a strange dream. But then, from the kitchen, he heard a soft clatter. He sat. Up quickly. Ariel was standing near the stove, holding a frying pan in one hand and looking very confused. Pieces of egg were on the counter, and a burned slice of toast was stuck in the toaster. The microwave door was open, and there was cereal floating in a bowl of hot water. Darren blinked. "What are you doing?" Ariel turned toward him, her silver hair tied back in a loose knot. "I am making breakfast," she said with serious pride. "That is what humans do in the morning." He rubbed his eyes, smiling. "Yeah, but not like that." "I researched your food habits," she explained. Videos said eggs and toast are common. True, Darren said, walking toward her. But you don't microwave cereal. Ever. I see, she replied calmly, staring at the bowl. Mistake noted. He chuckled and gently took the pan from her. How about I show you how to do it right? Ariel stepped back, curious and eager to learn. As he cracked eggs into a bowl and added salt, she watched each step carefully. Cooking, she said, is very strange. You heat raw things until they change. Is that the goal? Exactly, Darren said. It's like turning something simple into something comforting. She paused. Comforting. A good word. While he cooked, Ariel leaned against the wall and asked question after question. Why do humans eat together? Why is breakfast lighter than dinner? Why do some people skip meals? Darren tried to answer each one as simply as he could, but her curiosity never ended. She wasn't just trying to understand food, she was trying to understand life. After breakfast, they sat by the window. Ariel took small bites of toast, pretending to chew even though she didn't really need to eat. Darren offered her coffee, but she just sniffed it and shook her head. Smells like sadness, she said. That made him laugh out loud. For the rest of the day, Ariel explored his home like a traveler in a museum. She picked up books and read entire pages in seconds. She tried on his clothes, his shoes, even his baseball cap, worn sideways. When he explained what a television remote was, she clicked every button with pure joy, even managing to change the language to Spanish by accident. At one point, Darren found her staring at a framed photo of him and his ex-girlfriend from 2 years ago. He felt a lump in his throat but said nothing. Ariel asked softly, Is this the one who left? Yeah, he replied, glancing at the photo. She had different dreams. We wanted different things. She is smiling. But your smile is not the same as now. He looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? Your smile in this photo looks forced, like it was put on, not grown inside. He stared at the picture and realized she was right. He hadn't noticed before. Later that evening, Darren took her out to a quiet hill just outside town. It was a place he used to visit when he needed to think. They walked slowly, the air cool around them, stars beginning to appear above. Ariel looked up and pointed to a faint red light in the sky. That is one of our observation markers. It watches Earth's energy fields. Energy fields? Your planet gives off emotions. Not just noise and heat, but real emotional waves. Fear, joy, grief. We can detect it from orbit. Darren shook his head. So you're telling me the planet feels? No, she said gently. But it shares what you feel, like an echo. Every human adds to the signal. They sat on the ground, watching the stars. Darren asked, What about you? Do you feel anything? Ariel was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I wasn't made to feel. I was made to observe, to collect and report. But since meeting you, something is changing. Changing. How? She looked at him, her voice softer than ever. I want to stay. I want to understand more, not just with my mind, but with my being. Darren didn't know what to say. He had never heard someone speak like that. Not even another human. She reached out again, placing her hand lightly on his shoulder. When I touched you last night, I felt your sorrow. But today, I feel warmth. That's because I'm not scared of you anymore, he said with a half smile. She smiled too, then tilted her head. Can I ask one more question? Of course. When humans feel close, they touch more. Yes? He nodded. Usually, yeah, holding hands, hugs, that kind of thing. I'd like to try it, she said quietly. Holding hands. Without thinking too much, Darren extended his hand. She placed hers in his. Her fingers were smooth, light, and warm, for a long time. They just sat there in silence, her fingers curled gently around his. The stars above them shimmered, and the world felt still. He looked at her face, calm, glowing slightly in the moonlight, and realized that she wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was becoming something else, someone else. She turned to him and said, "I think I am beginning to feel." And Darren, without needing to answer out loud, simply held her hand tighter. Days passed, and Darren and Ariel grew closer. She was learning fast, about human habits, emotions, and even humor. Darren found himself smiling more than he had in months. Having her around made the empty rooms feel full of life again. But something was changing inside Ariel, too. Her bright curiosity was mixing with something deeper. Sometimes Darren caught her staring out the window, her face soft but distant. She didn't talk about it, but he could tell she was struggling. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sky turned orange, Darren found her sitting alone on the porch steps. She looked up when he came outside. "I'm thinking," she said quietly. "About what?" Darren asked, sitting beside her. She hesitated. "About what happens when I must leave." Darren's heart sank. He had known this day would come. Her people were far away, and she couldn't stay forever. But hearing it made it real. "They'll come for you?" he asked gently. Ariel nodded. "My kind have strict rules. We must not interfere with the lives we study. We cannot form deep bonds. We are observers, not participants." "But you're different," Darren said. "You feel things. You care." She smiled sadly. "That is my problem. I did not choose to feel. It happened here, with you." Darren looked down at his hands. "What will happen if they find you?" "They will take me back. They will erase my memories of this place, of you." A sharp pain struck Darren's chest. The thought of losing her and her forgetting him was unbearable. "Is there no way to stay?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not without breaking the laws. It would make me a traitor." He swallowed hard. "And if you break the laws, they would hunt me. I would be alone, without help or hope." Darren reached out, taking her hand in his. "You're not alone. Not with me." Ariel looked into his eyes, searching. "I want to stay. I want to be here, with you. But it means losing everything I've known." Darren's mind raced. Could love really change the rules of an entire species? Could their feelings be stronger than laws written in distant stars? That night they talked for hours about what it meant to love, to lose, to risk everything for someone else. Ariel asked questions he had never thought about. Do humans always risk so much for love? "Sometimes," Darren said. "Sometimes not enough." She nodded slowly. "I want to risk it. For you." The next morning, Ariel seemed quieter. She moved with less energy, like a heavy weight rested on her shoulders. Darren tried to cheer her up with jokes and stories, but she smiled without laughing. Later, Darren found her standing by the window, looking at the sky. He didn't want to interrupt, but finally asked, "Are you afraid?" She looked at him and said simply, "Yes." "Of what?" "Of forgetting. Of losing what I've just found. Of being alone again." He stepped closer and wrapped his arms around her. "I'm here. I won't let that happen." For a moment, she leaned in too, his embrace allowing herself to feel safe. Then, suddenly, a soft buzzing sound filled the room. A small device in her pocket blinked with blue light. She pulled it out and stared at it. "It's a signal," she said, voice shaking. "They found me." Darren's heart pounded. "What will you do?" Ariel looked at him, tears in her eyes. I must decide, leave with them and forget, or stay and lose everything. He shook his head. Don't choose yet. We'll figure something out. But she knew the decision wasn't theirs to delay. That night, under a sky full of stars, Ariel whispered, I want to stay. If only you promise you'll want me. Not as a mystery, but as who I am. Darren looked at her and smiled. I already do. In that moment, they both understood. Love was not just an emotion for humans. It was a force that could break rules, change destinies, and bring two very different worlds together. The night felt heavier than usual. The stars above twinkled in their usual patterns. But Darren couldn't enjoy them. He sat on the porch steps with Ariel beside him, both of them quiet. Her small device continued to blink in her hand, reminding them both that time was running out. They'll be here soon, she said softly. Darren clenched his fists. Is there any way to shut it off? Ariel shook her head. It's part of my body's system. Once activated, it cannot be undone unless I make a permanent decision. He looked at her. What decision? To stay here. To give up my right to return. It means disconnecting from my people, from the life I knew. Forever. The words sat between them like a wall. Darren felt helpless. He wanted to protect her, to keep her safe, but this wasn't something he could fight with, tools or logic. It was her choice, and it would change everything. She turned toward him. If I stay, I lose my identity. I become something new, something uncertain. Darren reached for her hand. Then let's be uncertain together. Ariel looked down at their joined hands. I was created for knowledge, not love. But now the knowledge I've gathered feels incomplete without you. Darren smiled. You don't have to understand everything. Humans don't either. We just try. And sometimes we follow what we feel. She nodded slowly. Feelings. I used to think they were strange. Now they are my guide. They sat in silence, hearts beating faster than usual, until the sky above shimmered. A soft light appeared, far above the clouds, slowly growing brighter. Ariel stood, watching carefully. They're coming, she whispered. Darren stood beside her. Then decide, not for fear, not for duty, for you. Ariel looked at the small, glowing device in her hand. She pressed it to her chest, and for a moment, it pulsed like a second heartbeat. Then her fingers moved over it gently, tracing a sequence. Darren watched her face, focused, calm, but full of feeling. Then the light on the device faded. The sky remained bright for a few more moments, then slowly dimmed. The shimmering light faded back into the stars. Nothing landed. No ship arrived. She had made her choice. I disconnected, she said, her voice trembling. They won't come now. They'll think I vanished. Darren stared at her. What does that mean? It means I'm alone, but free. He stepped forward and hugged her tightly. You're not alone, not anymore. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Then I will start a new life. Here. With you. The days that followed were filled with quiet change. Ariel stopped checking the skies. She learned to cook without burning things. She smiled more, laughed at Darren's bad jokes, and even learned how to use the washing machine after a few accidents. She took long walks outside, learning about Earth's plants and animals. She wrote down thoughts in a notebook Darren gave her, pages filled with questions, hopes, and little drawings. Sometimes she would sit and hum softly, making music that Darren had never heard before. It was beautiful, like wind moving through glass, but not everything was easy. There were moments when Ariel became still, her face unreadable. Darren could tell she missed something, even if she didn't say it out loud. He didn't push her. He simply stayed close, letting her know he was there. One morning, she woke up crying. "I dreamed of my world," she whispered. "Of the place I came from. I heard voices calling me back." Darren held her hand. "Do you regret staying?" She looked at him with teary eyes. "No, I'm scared, but not sorry." Over time, Oriel began to understand more about human life. She helped Darren with small inventions, often improving them in ways he couldn't explain. She became curious about art, painting abstract shapes with strange but beautiful colors. People in town began noticing Darren's changed energy. He smiled more, talked more, and seemed lighter. Of course, no one knew the truth. She stayed hidden, only going out when it was safe. They created a small room in the basement just for her, a private space filled with light, books, and pieces of home they made together. A lamp that mimicked the light of her planet's sun, music that reminded her of her ship's quiet hum. One night, months later, Darren found her outside again, sitting beneath the stars. "Are you okay?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes. I was thinking." "About what?" "About the night I begged you to let me in," she said, eyes soft. "And how?" Everything changed after that. He sat beside her, remembering every moment. The fear, the wonder, the connection. "I was scared too," he said, "but I'm glad I opened that door." She reached for his hand. "Do you miss them? Human women?" He looked at her with a smile. "No, I've never felt this way before. You didn't replace anyone. You became someone I didn't know I needed." She squeezed his hand. "Then you were right. You let me in. And now, I'm finally home." The stars above them continued to shine, but something had shifted. Two worlds had crossed paths and made something new, something human, something alien, something real. And they both knew. Whatever came next, they would face it together.